children, but the same children.
No, this is different. Okay.
I can remember one of children who was in Tusita Meditation Center in Dharamsala.
That's, I think, Pema Chodron you're talking about.
Yes, Prema Chodran, I think.
She's from Nova Scotia, Eastern Canada.
She's most of the year in Colorado.
Oh, really?
And she comes to the Abbey usually for the Rains retreat in the Abbey is held in the winter because it's hard to have a Rains retreat in the summertime because there's so many tourists who come on the land. So the best time for retreat is winter. So she comes for the Rains retreat in the winter, usually 4 or 5 months at the Abbey.
Oh, I see.
Once I met another Anila from the Pema Chodran's monastery.
Yeah.
In airport. In airport, maybe Minneapolis airport.
Oh yes, because yeah, not too far from there, Contra Rinpoche comes up sometimes to teach, and so some people might go for something like that. And there's so much going on in Minneapolis in terms of Dharma. That's interesting.
I'm just waiting for the Venerable monks and nuns to come and join us. So give us 50 seconds.
I can see Bhante Sankit is there within the beautiful background.
Yeah.
Yes, Bhante, how are you all doing?
I think we are good. I tried to ring Bhante Mudita, but anyone didn't answer to me.
Try his cell phone number?
I think I tried to both number, your number and Bhante Mudita's number.
I didn't get any call.
Not today.
Right.
All right, so can we begin? Good evening and blessings of the Noble Triple Gem to all the Venerable monks and nuns and to our friends who are joining us online for Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So we would like to welcome all of you to our bi-weekly sutra discussion. And as you probably noticed, we had this discussion on a Saturday evening, but this is the Vasana season in the Theravada Buddhist tradition. So the monks and nuns are busy with their weekend events on rain for Vas season. So as a result of that, we decided to hold this session on a weekday, Monday evening, and I think still monks and nuns some are very busy with their own programs, but we are very grateful to have these venerable monks and nuns. We have Venerable Samten Chodron from Ottawa, Canada, and we have Bhante Kamalasri from Minnesota, USA, and Bhante Sankitya from Detroit, Michigan, USA, and Venerable Vimala Bhikkhuni from Chicago, USA, and Bhante Sunita from Ottawa, Canada. Bhante Kusala is here from in Toronto, Canada, We also have Bante Sila joining us from Wisconsin, and we have Bante Nanda, Omar and Nanda joining us from Ottawa, Canada, and Bante Jinanand is there from Ottawa. So let us begin our session by paying respect and homage to the Buddha by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times together. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. I pay my respect and homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened Buddha. Dear friends, right till 2 weeks ago, we had a unique discussion on Buddhism and mental health. So we had a very productive discussion, and I have received some great feedbacks from the viewers from different countries, how greatly they have appreciated our discussion on mental health and Buddhism. Venerable Kema Mataji is also here. Welcome. So we all have openly expressed our views. We have shared our stories, our words of wisdom for the great benefit of the people around the world. And this was a suggestion. The new topic today is about the Buddha's teaching on non-self, based on the Anattalakkhana Sutta. This topic was proposed by Bhikkhuni Tata Loka from California, but she is not here today. Hoping to see her soon if she is choosing to join us today. But I think this is a great topic for us. And as you all know, this is the second discourse delivered to the first group of 5 ascetics called Panchavagya Bhikkhu. And the first discourse was the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the discourse on the turning the wheel of life, and which contains the heart of Buddhist philosophy, the teachings, the Four Noble Truths, and the Noble Eightfold Path. But before that, Buddha kindly encouraged the ascetics to abandon following the 2 extremes and to adopt the middle path, which is the way to the freedom from suffering, to the nirvana. So after delivering this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, I think it the Venerable Anya Kondanya became Arahant at the end of it, but other 4 did not. And other 4 colleagues became enlightened Arahants after hearing the second discourse of the Buddha, which is the Anattalakkhana Sutta, which is found in the Samyutta Nikaya, in the Khanda Samyutta, and the 22nd section known as Upayavagga, the Sutta number 59. So it is known as Anattalakkhana Sutta. Also, it is known as the Panchavaggi Sutta, because it was the discourse delivered to the five ascetics who practiced the severe asceticism with the Buddha while Buddha was searching the way to enlightenment. This discourse is containing another key teaching of the Buddha, the teaching on the not self. What we call the self is not the self. And so at the end of this discourse, other four colleagues of the Venerable Anya Kondanya became Arahant, the enlightened disciples of the Buddha. So now I would like to throw this question to all our venerable colleagues who are joining us from different cities. And as you know, today, we don't have any fixed questions for this discussion. And we are just going to ask questions and openly discuss about this. I know all the venerable monks and nuns have read this sutta, and it's actually short. Before we get into discussion, why it is salient, why it is so important for us to understand not self, you know, while other people are saying this is myself, this is mine, this is me, this is I, but the Buddha is saying what you call I, me, myself is not yours. Do you want me to read that short sutra for the great benefit of the viewers and for all of you? Yeah. Okay. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Benares in the deer park at Isipatana. There, the Buddha addressed the group of 5 mendicants. Venerable Sir, they replied. The Buddha said this: mendicants, form is not self. For if form were self, it wouldn't lead to affliction. And you could compel form. May my form be like this, may it not be like that. But because form is not self, it leads to affliction. And you can't compel form. May my form be like this, may it not be like that. Feeling is not self. Perception is not self. Fabrication, choices are not self. Consciousness is not self. For if consciousness were self, it wouldn't lead to affliction. And you could compel consciousness. May my consciousness be like this, may it not be like that. But because consciousness is not self, it leads to affliction. And you can't compel consciousness. May my consciousness be like this, may it not be like that. What do you think, mendicants? Is form permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, sir. But if it's impermanent, is it suffering or happiness? Suffering, sir. But if it is impermanent, suffering, and perishable, is it fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, I am this is myself. No, sir. Is feeling permanent or impermanent? Is perception permanent or impermanent? Are fabrications, choices permanent or impermanent? Is consciousness permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, sir. But if it's impermanent, is it suffering or happiness? Suffering, sir. But if it's impermanent, suffering, and perishable, is it fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, I am this is myself. No, sir. If you should truly see any kind of form at all, past, future, or present, internal or external, coarse or fine, inferior or superior, far or near, all form with right understanding, this is not mine, I am not this is not myself. Any kind of feeling at all, any kind of perception at all, any kind of choices at all. You should truly see any kind of consciousness at all, past, future, or present, internal or external, coarse or fine, inferior or superior, far or near, all consciousness with right understanding. This is not mine, I am not this, this is not myself. Seeing this, a learned noble disciple grows disillusioned with form, feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness. Being disillusioned, desire fades away. When desire fades away, they are freed. When they are freed, they know they are freed. They understand rebirth is ended, the spiritual journey has been completed, what had to be done has been done, there is no return to any state of existence. That is what Buddha said. Satisfied, the group of 5 mendicants were happy with what the Buddha said, and while this discourse was being spoken, the minds of the group of 5 mendicants were freed from defilements by not grasping. So the sutta ends here. Now, our question, this is an open discussion. Why this sutta is so important? Anyone? Now,
I think
okay, Bante, come listen.
Excuse
I-
me,
I
say
like to
the
take,
question again. Say the question again, please.
The question is, Bante Sila, why this teaching on not self, like what Buddha is saying, this Anattalakkhana
Okay,
Sutta.
okay, thank you.
Now, how do we understand this?
Bante Sila going to say something or not? If not, I can take it.
Yeah, Bante Kamalasiri, go ahead. Yeah.
There is a two reasons behind this sutra. One reason is the philosophy, which was in that society historically. Second one, the concepts in human mind. It is included to other mind also, but I like to say human mind. Okay. Because that sutra is addressed to the humans.
Yeah.
Then, according to philosophy, historically, what happened, they believe the permanent soul, and they believe that soul permanently it is permanent, and pleasure and with happiness. Yeah. And self, and it is the self, the permanent and pleasure and self. That concept was the philosophy based on all of other philosophies and religious belief, and that was the belief of ascetics during that time, all of the Sramanas. Yeah. Otherwise, even today also it is not different. Mostly philosophically, they have that idea. This body is the self. According to Western philosophy, they believe self. This body is the self. Even though they say there is no consciousness before this body, after this body, consciousness also part of this body. But they believe self, it is the self. Then that was belief of that 5 ascetics also. The idea also was that they had idea about their consciousness and the body, their body and mind, both sides. The other hand, all of us as normal, as the people who not attain to Sotapanna, the path of the freedom, it is our mental situation. We think like that way. Myself. Myself.
Yeah.
This is I am. This is I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
That is our mind. Then Buddha has given this sutra to change that concept in the mind. Yeah, there is something, there is something, but it is not self. That is the main point there. There is something. There is physical body, there is consciousness, nama and rupa, but it is not self. Then actually he wanted to change their mind, because before this sutra deliver, all of 5 of them were attained to the Sotapanna. They were on the way, they were on the path.
Yeah.
Then what happened, even though they are in the path, they had that concept, the self, this body, this soul, this is the self. Then sometime some people take misunderstanding about the sutras. They say the Buddha said that there is no soul. Yeah. He's not talking about anything about soul, because of the soul, it is not the Buddhist word, but it is equal to the consciousness. Yeah. It is the soul is not equal to the atta. It is equal to the consciousness. Then we can say Buddha said the soul also not self.
Yeah.
Body also not self.
Yeah.
That is the saying in this sutta.
I think it's very interesting. Now, what Buddha is saying, what you call the self is not the self.
Yes.
Now people are calling the self to the body, to the feeling, to the perception, to the mental formation, to the consciousness. So all these 5 psychophysical entities constitute what people tend to believe they call the self. So now, but the Buddha said, wait a minute.
Yeah, that is the tone.
Yeah. But the way I see, what you call is, according to me, is not the self. Now this is exactly what he's saying. It's a mendicant form is not self. And if form was self, it wouldn't lead to affliction. Now it's a great argument. I think there is a great reasoning. The logic Buddha is bringing here. Now they're saying if the form, the body, is the self, then this body should not be suffering, or this body should not be subject to the suffering. And you cannot, then if it is the true self, then you could say to yourself that, may my body be like this, may it not be like that. That means may, so we should have control, but there's no control. But then this is because form is not self, you're not under control, you can't control it, and it's leading to the affliction. And So this is a great argument the Buddha is bringing, like the logic. Now I would like, okay, and here we have some Western nuns. I think we need to bring the combination of both understanding, the Eastern way of understanding the self, the soul, or the self, and the Western way of understanding the self. Now we have Venerable Samtan from Ottawa, Venerable Bhikkhuni Vimala from Chicago, and Mataji from Mumbai. So how do you understand this self? What do you think of this? Like any of you? Do you have any clue? Mataji, can you? You had to unmute. You had to unmute yourself. Mataji, you had to unmute.
Honestly, first, I thought about this last night. I really want to listen to what everyone is saying first, in this case, before I say anything, because we go with this a little differently. So I want to wait.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Bhikkhuni Vimala, how do you perceive this the self as a Westerner?
There was relief for me when I was able to think that there's no evidence of a soul. I mean, that's because that never made a lot of sense to me, even when I was a Christian growing up. Mm-hmm. And I think it is important for me to often tell Westerners who are still Christians that the Buddha didn't say there is no soul, there is a soul. It was also one of those unanswerable questions in other suttas. You know, there was room to just see it as an unknown. But I think the beauty for me in this is also realizing that he's concluding this with it by not believing that all of these aggregates are who we are. Mm-hmm. That it liberates us anyway, just by being able to let go of desire, being able to let go of attaching and craving. That's kind of the magic answer. It's and that's what helped those monks become liberated, listening to it. In a way, it's almost as if instead of being a really complicated theory that has to be intellectually reasoned out, the Buddha's saying, this is not who we are. All of these components, all of these things that are caused by causes and conditions, and that when we recognize that, then we're free from desiring. Westerners, maybe everyone in the world these days, are totally obsessed with trying to unlock the secrets to longevity and living forever. You know, there's so many people trying to teach people or sell people things that will help them live to be 120, or maybe they don't have to die at all. And to know that we have no control over this, that we have to see all of this as Dhamma, all of these aggregates, is really liberating, because the whole focus of modern life seems to be to have more and to create an identity based on how much you have, or what titles you have, or what job you have, or the kind of house you live in, or everything is so based on those 5 aggregates, thinking that we can control them, thinking that we can tell our bodies I want you to be this way. I want you to be a certain way, and that they will respond, when we know all the time that doesn't happen. So it seems like to me, the exciting part of this sutta is that letting go of that, of kind of chasing after me, mine, and who I am, can let us let go of all the greed we have around thinking that the things that we control are the things that make us who we are. I mean, I think the Buddha points it out really clearly that we can't control these aggregates. For me, I'm always trying to understand consciousness and all the different ways it's used in the suttas. And it's such a relief to think, well, I don't have to, maybe it's more about letting go of holding on to those concepts of what we are than it is in intellectually being able to understand every little facet of them. Like letting go of, just that letting go is what we have to do.
Yeah, but the letting go has to be done with wisdom.
Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, it's where it's delusion, but I think the concept of soul is very hard. I know a lot of people who feel like they're Buddhist, but they have such a strong, probably Christian background that they're always using the word soul. They're always talking about it. It's almost like a hangover from an earlier part of their lives.
Okay, so Bhante Jinananda from Ottawa raised hand, and also Venerable Samten also raised hand. Venerable Samten, just hold on your thought, okay? Let me get. Oh, he's gone. Bhante Jinananda.
No, I'm here.
Yeah.
Bhante Sarpala, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity today. I'm joining from the airport in Montreal.
Oh,
So,
oh, it's okay. You can turn on your video.
No, I think I'm in the car, so I think it's okay to talk without the video.
Okay.
So it's really interesting that Bhante Kamalasari mentioned about the significance of the discourse, and I'm going to add something to it just to give some more thoughts about it. When we think about the Anattalakkhana Sutta or Panchavagya Sutta, as exactly mentioned in the Tripitaka, you can say that it is the time that the Buddha showed the world that we can have full enlightened people. Actually, with the first discourse in July, he established the triple gem in the world, and he was able to establish the triple gem, the Dhamma, and also Sangha with the first discourse. And after a couple of days, he was able to show the world that there are arahants other than me in the world because of the complete destruction of the self. So I think this is a significant moment in the ministry of the Buddha, because he was, from his point of view, he was successful with this, right? On the other hand, in addition to that, the monks show that they can do it, and this is the first time that the world has 5 arahants. So I think to the point we have been discussing now is that destruction of self has been starting when somebody destroyed the Sakkaya Ditthi. Actually, Anya Kondanya and the other 5 were able to do it in different times during the first session of the Dhamma series. And that is the time they started separating or destructing the self. So when we come to Anattalakkhana Sutta, it is significant because Buddha unfolded the entire scope of the Noble Eightfold Path here. And then while listening to the discourse, they were able to make sure that we are arahants. So it is a significant thing, and we can see that different type of characters were there with this discourse. And look at the Buddha's way of teaching or making sense about the Dhamma. He was taking time to explain the Four Noble Truths in a different way, and then he took everyone into a certain level where everybody can understand the final plight. So he actually explained the 5 aggregates and also clinging part of it in a beautiful way, so that these qualified 5 monks were able to, able to do their job. Actually, it is not the magic of the Buddha; it is also magic of these 5 monks, because sometimes Buddha explained the Dhamma and people could not understand an iota of the Dhamma. But these 5 monks are examples to each and everyone about how they did the final, move from, in a level of enlightenment to a supreme level of enlightenment. So that this discourse does not only, teach us the way of 5 aggregates, but it is giving so many implications for us to understand what we should actually. We have to let go of Sakkaya Ditthhiya and other defilement first, then we are getting ready for the final fight. So I see that this discourse is really important in many sense like this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Bhante Jinananda, for adding more insights into this discussion. I just saw Bhante Mudita is also joining our discussion from Detroit, who is our teacher, and so happy to have him in this discussion. So, Venerable Samten, you raised your hand. I'm pretty sure you have great wisdom to add into this discussion.
Thank you. I was thinking of a book title by Anattalakkhana Rinpoche. And the title of the book is No Self, No Problem. And I think that is a really pithy way of pointing at the importance of this teaching, that that it's the big deal self, it's the big deal me that stands between me and waking up. And when Buddha helped and helps us to see that it doesn't exist, something that doesn't exist, we spend a lot of time trying to shore up. It takes so much energy, and it's the basis of pride and aggression and craving and ignorance. So once that's demolished, as the Buddha so well demolished it, then we're free to we're free of those poisons. So our work, I think, is to really not just hear those teachings intellectually, but taking them so to heart that, and I also think it's interesting that it was the second discourse. So in order for us to hear all of the future discourses, in order for us to even hear each other, the self has to get out of the way. If my self is, and my whole belief and my cherishing, and that is great big right in front of me, I really can't see or hear anybody else. And I certainly couldn't hear the Buddha's teachings. So in order for us to be able to receive his teachings, he gave us instruction to get that grasping after some thing that we have to make important and make pretty and make strong and make rich and all that out of the way, then we have tremendous freedom. Thank you.
Yeah, I have to question, it is not question, something else. I need to ask something from the children. I think you are familiar to Prajna Paramita Sutra Heart Sutra. What do you think? I think you read this one also, the Anattalakkhana Sutta also. What do you think about this both sutra comparatively? Because there is only difference between this both sutra is in Prajna Paramita Sutra, it's used the word sunyata other than anatta. That is the only difference of this two both sutra. And according to Mahayana tradition, Prajna Paramita is the second Dhammachakra. Actually in Theravada tradition, we don't say the Anattalakkhana Sutra is the second Dhammachakra, but but we should say it because that is the second Dhammachakra. It is better if you can explain something within this understanding, the Heart Sutra and Anattalakkhana Sutra.
That's it.
I think I'm not wise enough to speak to that in this context. I think what you've said is really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we do say that this is the Anattalakkhana is the second sutra delivered by the Buddha. Only after this was delivered, that because the Dhammachakra wasn't enough for monks to get the full understanding, so the Buddha had to throw another stone, and the stone here is Anattalakkhana. Okay, catch this and you will be enlightened. So I think the monks went right into it, and Kondanya, I think all the 5 monks became enlightened, I think, after this. So, and Venerable Samten's idea of letting go of a self or any knowledge reminded me of that. I think it's a Zen story where this professor goes to meet a monk to learn Buddhism. The monk makes a cup of tea, and in it, after making it, he pours the tea into an empty cup, and it spills. And the professor says, stop, don't you see it's spilling? And then the monk says, it's just like that, you have to let go of all your knowledge before you can, all that labeling, I, my making, mind making in your mind before you are able to understand the simple teachings. So I think Venerable Samten set up the background for this story very nicely. The idea of letting go of even the idea of it's me, or it's a thing that is happening to me. Instead, you see causes and conditions, and you see the Dhamma, and it lifts up such a burden from us. But I'm still not responding to Bhante Kamalasi's question here. But I think we can go now.
No, it would be wonderful to have another discussion, like, how those, let's say, Prajna Paramita Sutra, Hridayangrama Sutra, Tathagata Garbha Sutra, they always talk about the emptiness, shunyata, form is empty. And even how I really love how the venerable monks and nuns in the Tibetan tradition, Mahayana tradition, they chant that in English. Form is empty, feeling is empty, perception is empty, formation is empty, consciousness is empty. Like, I think the emptiness theory, I think that's, they are referring to what in this sutta we are reading, the not self. At the end, there's no, there's nothing to hold on to. We think there's something to hold on to, but at the end, there's nothing. As a result of that, we suffer. But we will continue with the discussion. Bhante Sankitya, raised your hand. And Bhante Sankitya, you have something to add into this discussion?
Yes, Bhante, thank you. So still talking about why this topic is important, I also felt that, Buddha after a lot of sacrifice, long journey, after this new discovery, actually, he presented the formula, the ultimate formula to the 5 ascetics. Only the ascetic Kondanya was able to grasp it, attaining the Sotapanna. And then, as Bhante Kusala mentioned, Buddha had to throw another one, because the first one didn't kind of work, but it implies actually, when you study the Dhamma, rather than attaining the Arahant shape or the full enlightenment, the most challenging stage of enlightenment is the Sotapanna, right? Because that is the real breakthrough. When you think about the existence, how strongly we are holding to this concept of self and all other personalities, the craving for all other conditions. So therefore, there's no doubt that they gave the ultimate formula to achieve that goal. And then Buddha had to give this sermon on non-self. So when we think about the teaching of non-self, actually, this is the heart of the Buddha's teaching. So can be the ultimate, Buddha had to use this theory for them to able to attain enlightenment. And if you think about the teachings to Bahya even, that was really applying, to attain enlightenment, to break through. So therefore, this sutta, the teachings of non-self is so powerful, and the other reason why this topic is important, this is the most confusing topic in the Dhamma even, right? Many people don't get it, especially non-Buddhists, even Buddhist people, even though they think they claim that they can understand, but it can be intellectually true, but to really understanding its meaning, its implications, applications in the path and practice can be very confusing, right? And the other important thing is, I think the teachings of non-self is the most special area or the topic that is unique to Buddha's teaching, because all other religions, almost all other belief systems, they all are based on this self, idea of self, because there's someone who is attaining the enlightenment or go to the heaven or attain the moksha in all other religions. But this is what Buddha really denies, right? There's no such a thing. And then comes the most critical question even for Buddhists. Then who is attaining the enlightenment? Right? Many people ask that question out of very confusing mind. People really get discouraged, even make arguments, who is then experiencing all this? Why we bother even to attain enlightenment? Because who is attaining the enlightenment? Who is suffering? So these are very good questions. So I think therefore this topic of non-self is to be carefully investigated, and even if you how powerful this topic is, how practical it is, even if you understand it intellectually, that itself even can help you, even before you completely realize it, see it for yourself, even out of logical thinking mind, you begin to see everything in a totally different way, and when it comes to a very practical realization, there's no doubt this is the ultimate actually, where you're going to end all pain, suffering, all emotional confusions and everything. So I think, therefore, because of all these ideas, it is very essential that we talk about it, understand it, meditate on this, and even discuss on this.
Thank you, Bhante Sankhicha. That's another way to look at this concept. Now, I think when we carefully read the sutra, right, Buddha is not saying there's no soul, or there's no self, but what he's saying, what you call the self is not the self. Right? So, Bhante Kusala, you raised, I'm pretty sure you have another great story to tell.
Well, Bhante, you brought us into a place of greater interest, it's courageous of you to say that, what you call self is not exactly that, in the society, in the social norms. And connecting that with what Bhante Sankitcha very nicely mentioned, he said, the importance of understanding, importance of discussing this sutta is because it's a difficult subject to understand. So this reminded me of the experience of me trying to teach about anatta to my friends in Europe, in Italy. I was a student there, and what they told me at the end was, it is easier to believe that there is a self than trying to understand that there is no self. So,
That's a great saying.
choose the easy thing. They don't want to work on the harder, philosophical stuff. It requires.
I think not only you, the Nagara, great philosopher Nagarjuna also was in that trouble. Don't worry.
All of us monks also.
It is that much complicated.
I think Bhante Jinananda, you raised your hand?
Yes, Bhante, it is really interesting to hear these good monks' interpretation on self. What I think is that the Buddha's way is really interesting. So he made these 5 monks ready to get the biggest point of the Dhamma, the Anatta. In other words, we would be able to see that somebody has to understand the the self in a theoretical way in order to get into the practical way. Look at the way the Buddha explained the Four Noble Truths in the first discourse. He said at the end, Sankittena Panchupadanakkanta Dukkha. So all the suffering is about the attachment to 5 aggregates. So in the first discourse, he stated the point, and here he explained how you should how you should get out of this attachment to 5 aggregates. To me, it is a kind of a marvelous way, a marvelous teaching of the Buddha about the way to dissolve the self. So we may have a lot of issues about anatta or atta just because we haven't dealt with the sakkaya ditthi first. So if one is able to understand sakkaya ditthi first, there they have the understanding of the self as nothing but only an idea in the mind. So I think when we talk about the self or non-self, on the other side of the coin, we have to know that all the dhammas come in front, like Noble Eightfold Path. All the 37 factors of the Noble Dhamma come in as a force just to get this self out of our mind. So that's why these 5 monks could be able to get it. Otherwise, it won't happen. So in that sense, I think I'm talking to the listeners who do not know the concept. Perhaps they can understand that we have to do more in order to get this level to destroy the self completely. So I think that's what Buddha did during between the first discourse and the second discourse. He was able to convince those 5 monks about various Dhamma aspects, but it is unfortunately not recorded very clearly that what exactly he said, whether he explained the Four Noble Truths or Noble Eightfold Path as mentioned in the first discourse during these 5 days or 6 days between these 2 discourses, or did he explain something else also? There is no evidence like that, but we can get the idea that Buddha made ready those 5 monks to get the idea of non-self very clearly by culminating the 37 factors of enlightenment.
Yeah, so I think when we read the let's say the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta and the Anattalakkhana Sutta, the whole purpose of these sutras, let's say the whole mission of the Buddhas is to end suffering, right? Then when that is the realization of nirvana or nibbana. Now, in realizing nirvana and understanding the not self, is that, how important is that? Bhante Sankitcha, you raised your hand. We can't hear you, Bhante Sankitcha.
Well, you just asked a question, right?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, anyone, like now, even here, when we see, yeah, Mataji.
Where to start? Very difficult. Some of the things you said a moment ago that Bhante just mentioned is one of the terrifying statements that faces the Western psychologist.
Yeah.
And some of the Western psychologists have even written books saying, please don't let your children ever meditate, because if they meditate, they'll get in trouble because they need to have a healthy ego, and those people, they don't want anything to do with ego. But what I discovered was that the ego of the Western psychologist. There's nothing wrong with the Eastern ego in children over here. Very, very wonderful. They're very balanced. One of the things that comes up for me with anatta is how thrilling it is, because anatta is the end of craving. If you understand anatta, you cannot crave. That cuts it off, because the anatta is the closure of the craving. That's one of the things about the 37 requisites of enlightenment. I could never get to what anatta really meant until I had worked through for many years the 37 requisites very much into the training that I had. Very, very much. Okay. And the Eightfold Path is included in this. And the trouble with the Buddhist teaching sometimes for the Westerner is how fractionalized it appears, and how some people think, well, if I know one sutta, I know Buddhism. It's impossible, because there are these supporting pieces that all have to be operating together to make this Dhamma cloth, you see? Now, one of the things that we do in our training is we approach the Chichaka Sutta. And this sutta is good because, yes, this one that you've given us, yes, this is very nice, but it doesn't really say the solution until the end, almost the end of the sutta, where it finally says, he gives it really is with correct wisdom. Thus, this is not mine. This I am not. This is not myself. And it only tells you a little bit there. But if you go and look at Chichaka Sutta, that's a real workout. So how when we take Chichaka Sutta, we have 6 sections. And what is fascinating to me is, in my mind, I can see a group of monks listening to the Dhamma when the Buddha is giving this. I can see them saying, when he starts to explain the pieces and everything, he gets to the part where he tells them the question of, how did we get in this position of atta? How did we get in that position? And they first say, because the Buddha is saying, because when when you believe the I is self, you say, this is me, this is mine, this is myself, then you're getting in trouble with the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. You are getting in terrific trouble. So he goes through the whole machination of, this is me, this is my, this is how you got there. And then they first he tells them, wait a second, I'm doing it backwards. First, he says, if anyone says the I is self, that is not acceptable. The rise and fall of the I is seen and understood. And since it's understood, it should follow that I can make my I do anything, but this is not so. This is the first part, the first section. The second section, it's like the monks are asking him, how did we get in this position? And he tells them, because you went around believing from the time you were very small that the I is me, it is mine, it is myself. And then it hit me. We've been trained our whole life to believe this is me, this is mine, this is myself. Therefore, I must be in here and I must be in control of everything. Then there's a next section. And then he says, but it's as if they sat there and someone said, excuse me, but how do we get out of this? And how we get out of this is we actually take it and you see, this was a drill. I can see these monks going out the next day. We have a training where Bhante has always told us that if you listen to the sutta carefully, the audiogenic learning, not the intellectual part, the audiogenic learning, then they would sit with him and then go to bed. And the next day they get up, they go on alms. And that day they spend the time practicing what they heard last night, you see? And so that next day they go out and they are to practice the way out, that this I is not me, it is not mine, it is not myself, and it's a drill. Now we go to modern neuroplasticity. How does the brain learn? The brain learns by impingement. And he's telling them, you must go out now, you must retrain yourselves, you must drill yourselves constantly, everywhere you go, everywhere you walk, everything you do. The moment that you feel like I want attachment, or I don't want, and this aversion, you start saying, wait, this whole experience, this is not me, this is not mine, this is not myself. This is just what he said this is. So we tie the anatta. We let with the anatta is an impersonal perspective of everything. This is the guts. This is the core of this heart teaching. This everything is not me. It is not mine. It is not myself. Everything is just what it is. And that's where this joy comes up in you, because you learn, I can stay in present time because of, let me tell you one thing. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. It drove me crazy as a Christian. It drove me crazy as a Christian. Now, anicca is not bad. I can walk in the forest and everything is impermanent. I can look at the tree and see the seed and the tiny stem coming up and the sapling and the small tree and the big tree and the giant tree. I can see the shadow of the giant tree that fell and dissolved, and all that's left is the shadow. Okay, I get it. I get impermanence. Okay, suffering. Oh, I had lots of that. I had lots and lots of that. So what is the way out of this suffering? Was everything I believed was happening to me, devastated me because of the weight of what was happening to me. And then this Buddha comes along and he says, wait a second, this is not me, this is not mine, this is not myself. This is just an experience here, an experience there with the sense door systems, yeah? And it is rising with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yeah, it is passing away. Yeah, okay. And then I still don't understand. What is anatta doing with anicca and dukkha? Why is it hooked on there? And then I found out. Just only a couple of years ago, it really hit me like a huge thing. And I started saying, this anatta is here because if it's not me, it is not mine, it is not myself. I can let go of the weight. And the truth of my life is nothing ever happened to me. Everything happens from me. Now you see the 37 requisites of enlightenment falling in place and getting everything is getting clear. You see how to take the dependent origination, and all of a sudden 7 links of that dependent origination and anatta come together. And guess what? You cannot crave if you have an impersonal perspective, because I am not there. In order to crave, there must be a pronoun. In order for me to say, like it, don't like it, that sort of, I like it, he likes it, she likes it, they like it, they want it, they suffer, they think it is happening to them. Then I started to teach my students differently. Look at what he gave us, what the Buddha gave us, is he gave us the answer. Nothing has been happening to us in our whole life. If we look clearly, the thing that bites us is always some story from the past or some worry about the future. I have a problem with the worry in the future right now. Yeah, we all do, okay?
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, anatta is this key. It is this key to understanding. That is the end of craving and clinging and habitual reactions and the birth of those reactions. And when that you see that that is the key, then you want to go outside. When I found this, I went to Bant. He just smiled as if he already knew. He did already know. He said, this is something I had to come to this and then go outside and look at everything, even turn around and look, how did I get hurt in the past? How did that happen? How did that work? I can see that now. I don't care, but I mean, I can see it. Doesn't bother me anymore. Because why? Because I see I was caught in a trap of avatar. In Chachaka, the special thing is you can see in your mind the presentation of the first part of the sutta and then the training part of the sutta. And it's incredible because it's all about nothing is left but consciousness. Nothing is left but seeing the present time. Nothing is there. But if you ever feel a tightness in your life, you let go and you are in that bubble. You are in that present time. And it's moving because it's impermanent. It's moving all the time. And if you can stay in that present time, the present moment is a fad. It is just a little cliche thing. Nobody can stay in the moment. A man came once to me in a retreat and he said, I'm doing fine, but I've got an awful headache. I said, why you have a headache? You should be smiling. You should be happy. Why? He said, because for the last hour, I've been trying as hard as I can to stay in the present moment. I said, that's nonsense. He said, I couldn't do it. I even had my watch. I started laughing. Take your watch off. Go back and sit again. Relax. Just watch. You're only supposed to be watching. You're not supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go. Everything, leave it alone and let it go. Yeah, and that's why, because it's not me, it's not mine, it's not myself. It's the I, me, my, mine syndrome. I, me, my, mine. If you don't understand it, you get a 2-year-old and take them to a store.
I think what you said is very interesting. Like, of course, this is related to the craving. When you assume a self, because in the assumption of the self, normally, generally, I think even those days, even now, people have this sense of feeling like I want something permanent, and I want that permanent thing so pleasurable for me, and it should not perish. It should be non-perishable. But although we say this, what I call the self, it should be permanent, it should be pleasurable, it should not change, it should be under my control. But nothing, all these things are not permanent. They are changing moment by moment. And this constant change is causing misery because it's not under the person's control. So as a result of that, people suffer, because then if you think there's some it should be permanent, and then you want to get attached to it.
Yeah, here's the trick. Okay, once there was a man who came to the Buddha,
Yeah.
and he said to the Buddha, I got a lot of trouble and I need you to teach me to meditate because I've got to get control of my life again. I have lost control and I have to get control again. And the Buddha, he smiled and he said, will you teach me meditation? And the Buddha smiled again, very quietly, and he said, okay, I'm going to teach you, but you have to do what I say. Can you do what I say? And he said, okay, I can do what you say. Okay. He said, okay, you're not going to like it if I teach you. He said, but will you teach me? I'll teach you. The first thing you have to do is let go of all control. All control. And you have to sit down and just watch. That's it. And the man went, God, let go of all control I have left. How can I can, he says, listen to me. If you let go of all control and do exactly what I tell you, in the end, the combination of the knowledge and understanding you learned from me, you will be in control, but in a totally different way. You see, conventional reality and a ultimate reality. We're sitting here talking about an ultimate reality. We're not telling people out there to stop saying, I, me, my, mine. I actually had a man say to my teacher once, I thought you were much more enlightened. And my teacher said, what do you mean? He said, you're talking to me in this conversation and you're still speaking in pronouns.
Yeah. Interesting. So I will actually relate this to, connect this to another sutra before we end this today's discussion on Anattalakkhana, the discourse on not self. But I would like to hear from Bhante Kamasri. You raised a hand. You have something to add.
Bhante Sankitya was raised before me.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Bhante Sankitya. You have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, Bhante. I think the most important thing for the discussion would be today, for our general audience, how this idea of self is related to our everyday life and how it causes suffering, in everyday life. I think we need to directly address that for the benefit of others. If we can talk a little bit about that. And also, I think as Buddhists or whoever wants to or tries to understand the reality of non-self, how to let go of it, the big relief here, I think, according to my understanding and according to the teachings, when you try to learn about Atta or the self, people, we all get the idea that there is something that I have to destroy or let go or completely put an end to it. But according to the sutta itself, it is pretty clear that we are not trying to destroy something which is there now, right? Because according to the teachings of non-self, we are supposed to understand that nothingness, there's no such a thing even now, right? So this is what the Buddha is trying to point out to us, right? So therefore, the biggest relief is that we are not trying to destroy something which is there now in ourselves, but as it is explained in the Dhamma, the concept or the idea of self is an illusion, right? It is not an existing thing. That reminds me of a wonderful saying, actually. I saw this statement from Rajneesh, actually, Osho. Once I read his book, this is so powerful and very practical and applicable, I think. this would be beneficial to all of us. It says that the darkness has its own existence. There's no such a thing as darkness in the universe, but it is the absence of light, right? The darkness is just the absence of light, right? When the light comes, the darkness vanishes, it goes away. So just like that, there's no ego or self on its own existence in reality. But according to the teachings even, it is implied that the ego or the self is the absence of mindfulness. Absence of mindfulness, as Mataji said, we need to watch, we need to be mindfully observe this nature. So in terms of the practice, of the Buddha, there are some levels actually concerned here, as non-self reality or the topic is a very deeper level, from the superficial level, for the general audience. If you do not have some sort of understanding about the teachings, basic knowledge, or even if you have not tried to meditate even a little bit, this topic would be very difficult, So therefore, we need to understand how subtle it is, but how it is related to us. So Buddha's approach was to understand this nature, this reality, ultimate truth. We need to talk about that also, how we see it then, what is the way to realize it, how we can let go of that illusion. So Buddha's direct method was the analyzing, what we call the vipassana, right? So we need to break it down, if it is the psychophysical entity, body or mind, five aggregates, all these things, to understand that there's no permanent existence. The ultimate way is to break it down. When we all see this psychophysical entity as a whole, as one thing, this is where and how we get the idea of self, right? So the way to understand is to break it down, analyze it to the ultimate levels. This is where you're going to see that truth. So
I think that is what exactly Buddha is doing here in this sutta, right? In
Yes,
Anattalakkhana
exactly.
Sutta, step by step, he's taking like what you is it permanent or impermanent? They are saying it's impermanent. Then is that painful or the happy one? That is painful. And then if it is impermanent, if it is painful, then we cannot say it's me, I, myself.
Right. So it's very interesting to understand when you claim something is belong to me, the idea comes to us that I can control, under my control. This is where actually the practical part comes in handy, right? Many people have problems with relationship, maybe at workplace, because of that idea. As we personalize these things, as one thing comes under my control, I want to control everything. This is where the real conflict begins, right? So once you can understand that there's no such a thing, as self, or nothing is belong to me, everything is happening according to the conditions. So this is another question, if you ask someone else, is there a self? Is there no self? So what the Buddha's answer was Buddha's answer was very direct, right? Buddha didn't say there's no self, there is a self, right? But Buddha gives us the understanding or clear method of understanding it as the causality, the causal reality. Causes and conditions make this illusion.
Yeah.
Right. So this is what we had to realize.
Yeah, I think Bhante Sankhicha, what you said, that saying of Krishnamurti, there's no such a thing called darkness.
Osho.
Darkness is Osho. The darkness is the absence of the light. And I think this is, Buddha is clearly saying this in the sutras and also other sutras. This should be seen with wisdom.
Exactly.
So in the
wisdom is the light.
Yeah, in the absence of wisdom, these people tend to assume the permanent self, and when you have the permanent self, then you try to control everything, and as a result, and when things are not under your control, then it makes you miserable. And I think now when we see this, even in the Dhammapada, the verse. Sabbe dhamma anattati yada panyaya passati. When you see, understand, or realize that all things are not self, then atanibbindati dukkha, then you become disenchanted, and esamagga visuddhya, then that leads to the purity, the path of purity, towards the liberation from suffering. And Buddha clearly made it very clear in the sutra. At the end of it, if you carefully read it, and he says, seeing this, a learned noble disciple grows disillusioned with form, feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness. Being disillusioned, desire fades away. And when desire fades away, they are freed. Then you become liberated. I said this is the key, one of the key statements Buddha made in this sutra. Bhante Kamalsri, you...
Yeah, actually, I wanted to tell a nice story. It is not a story thing. There is a video. I saw a video. It is on one of girl from Sri Lanka, just only around 3 years old girl. She has memory of her own past life. Her father asked question from her, what is the anatta? Then she gives a nice answer for that. She say, the father, see, your mother, means my grandmother, she called you as son. I called you as father. My mother called you as husband. And you called as yourself I. Then who are you? You are none of them. Yeah, you are none of them. Then the father asked question, then who am I? Then she said, that is your business. You have to find it. I think that is the best explanation I have seen about anatta from a 3 years old girl.
That's interesting. It's a great story. Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's in Sinhala language, but I will share with you if I find again that I know with whom that video, then I will send you.
Yeah, please do. I will share with everyone.
Yeah.
Bhante Kusala, you raised your hand.
Well, it's interesting that Bhante Kamalasiri, mentioned, that story. Everybody knows a little bit of us, and different versions of us live in different people's minds. It's not a full, complete image of who we think we are living in their minds. They are responsible for what they believe about us, and while we may have a completely different image about who we are. So if a 3-year-old can teach it, it's amazing. I think earlier we discussed about Bhante Sankicha's question about, who is then becoming enlightened if there is no self. I think Visuddhimagga has a quote that goes as, the path is there is no traveler, Nibbana is there is no one entering it. Something similar to that, it's the path is there's no traveler, Nibbana is there's no one enters into it. And Bhante mentioned about Bahir Sutta, and Venerable Kema mentioned about Chachakka Sutta. I think if you can put these sutras together, I'm telling this to the audience, you get greater insight into the subject, the objective nature and the subjective nature, how these objects become a subject in some people's minds because of a lacking of ignorance. I think this also reminds me of a Zen proverb that goes as, before enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water, and after enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water. There's no, huge magic that happens. It's just that you do the same stuff that you have been doing, but your understanding about things have changed. Your perspective of things, your perceptions, forms, a real deep understanding of each of these 5 aggregates, fall into one place to you, and you realize, oh wow, this I believed in an illusionary way, and now this is these things. So what? You still have to live your life, but you stop taking things so personally afterwards. And that is where the awakening begins to happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I would like to, as I said, we are coming to an end of this discussion. There is Bante Kusala Bante Kamalasri and Bante Sankicha. Mataji, I think it's also good for all of us to pay attention to this sutra. Venerable Bhikkhuni Vimala and Venerable Samten children, to pay attention to this sutta again from the Samyutta Nikaya. And the name of the sutta is called Na Tumhaka Sutta, not Yours Discourse. So let me read this out. There is a great simile, okay? There's a great metaphor given by the Buddha. Whatever is not yours, let go of it. Your letting go of it will be for your long-term happiness and benefit. And what is not yours? The I is not yours. Let go of it. Your letting go of it will be for your long-term happiness and benefit. Forms are not yours. I consciousness is not yours. Eye contact is not yours. Whatever arises in dependence on eye contact, experienced either as pleasure, as pain, or as neither pleasure nor pain, that too is not yours. Let go of it. Your letting go of it will be for your long-term happiness and benefit. The ear is not yours. Let go of it. The nose is not yours. Let go of it. The tongue is not yours. Let go of it. The body is not yours. Let go of it. The intellect is not yours. Let go of it. Your letting go of it will be for your long-term happiness and benefit. Ideas are not yours. Intellect consciousness is not yours. Intellect contact is not yours. Whatever arises in dependence on intellect contact, experienced either as pleasure, as pain, or as neither pleasure nor pain, that too is not yours. Let go of it. Your letting go of it will be for your long-term happiness and benefit. Suppose a person were to gather or burn or do as he likes with the grass, twigs, branches, and leaves here in Jeta's grove. Would the thought occur to you, it is us that this person is gathering, burning, or doing with as he likes? No, Lord. No, Lord. Why is that? Because those things are not ourselves, nor do they pertain to ourselves. In the same way, monks, the eye is not yours, let go of it. Your letting go of it will be for your long-term happiness and benefit. The ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, the intellect is not yours. Let go of it. Letting go of it will be for your long-term happiness and benefit. Whatever arises in dependence on intellect contact, experienced either as pleasure, as pain, or as neither pleasure nor pain, that too is not yours. Let go of it. Your letting go of it will be for your long-term happiness and benefit. Now, what I find interesting is the metaphor given here by the Buddha. Like, suppose a person were to gather or burn or do as he likes with the grass, twigs, branches, and leaves here in Jeta's grove. Would the thought occur to you, it's us that this person is gathering, burning, or doing with as he likes? Then the monk said, no, Lord. Why is that? Because those things are not ourselves, nor do they pertain to ourselves. do you have any thought to share?
Yes, Bhante, I think after all these things, discussions, it reminds me of saying of our Ajahn Brahm.
Yeah.
He says that eventually the enlightened ones, we all are going to be the biggest losers in this world, as we as in the enlightenment we have to let go of ourselves, and you will be losing yourself. So that's the ultimate. So
Yeah.
interesting thing is that when you let go of yourself, or when you let go of that illusion, when there's no self, there's nothing else to lose, right? So that's the end of suffering.
Yeah. So that means the assumption of the self blocks you from becoming happiness or freedom. Right? So in order to become the freedom, happiness, joy, first you have to become the loser. That is
Ante, a yeah, the loser thing. He also presents the parachute simile. You know, a man gets into a parachute, wants to go further up in the sky,
yeah.
and he removes the stuff he has, and it goes little further, but finally he jumps off. So the parachute is now free. This is also Ajahn Brahm. And one last thing that I like to bring up here is a man asked, this is famously quoted as a saying of the Buddha, but I'm not exactly, convinced of it as a sutta reference, but it speaks to some of the teachings. A man asked Gautama Buddha, I want happiness. The Buddha said, first remove I, that is ego, then remove want, that is desire. See now you are left with only happiness. So
yeah, so
you could say that this is atta and anatta is a personal perspective and an impersonal perspective in life. And that's what we'd like to talk about, atta and anatta, as the change in perspective. They translate it as, I think they translate it as identity and non-identity, or personality and non-personality. Personality and non-personality upsets the Western psychologist very much, okay? But it's not that. Go to the root word personal and impersonal. Now read the texts again. Go back and read the texts you've been reading again, and just think of the whole thing as an impersonal perspective. Nothing is personal. And then read, and everything bursts out differently to you.
I think today's discussion brought a lot of wisdom with respect to today's topic, the Buddha's discourse on not self. And as in this discussion, you brought references, you gave references to other sutras where we can have better understanding of this not self theory. I think the five mendicants became completely free from this cycle of life after understanding that all this time they have assumed a self, and I think that's why they believed in that severe asceticism, like they were doing that practice, and then they believed in that because of the assumption of the self. But then when Buddha made them clear, and made them understand that what you call this self is not the self, and it was a liberating experience for them, then they were able to let go, and they have become the losers in order to experience that enlightenment, the freedom from suffering. So today we are very grateful to all the venerable monks and nuns from different cities, different countries, coming to this Zoom platform to discuss on this. This is the gift of Dhamma that we have shared with our friends who are watching us on Facebook and YouTube, and later who are going to watch this program. And so I'm truly grateful to all of you. And maybe if we need another discussion, we will think about that. But I think this bi-weekly discussion is bringing a lot of wisdom, a lot of strength, courage, and wisdom to the people, including us, and even personally. I'm learning so much from this discussion. I think I'm the person who is benefiting from this because I ask the questions, I listen to you, and it's so enlightening. So I'm grateful to you, and I would like to wish all of you long life with good health. Long life with good health, because if you remain healthy, if you live long, we could have more productive discussions for the great benefit of everyone. So to end this program, and now I would like to invite Bante Sunita from Ottawa, Canada, to recite the Ovada Patimokkha Desana. You have to unmute yourself.
This is the time, let go of even the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, that's right.
Abraham says, get lost.
Become okay, thank you very much. It was wonderful discussion. I was there and I was fully in that discussion, though I did not say anything because I don't want to disturb the other venerable monks and nuns, and yeah, I benefited lots. Okay, and I wish you all, the venerable monks and nuns and bhikkhus and bhikkhunis and all the lay followers, happy moments ahead, and for practice of letting go of everything. I wish you all more wisdom to become great losers. Let me recite the Ovada Patimokkha. Sabba papassa akaranam kusalasa upasampada sacitta pariyodapanam etang buddhana sasanam khanti paramang tapotitikha nibbanang paramang vadanti buddha nahi pabbajito parupaghati samano hoti parang vihetayantu anupavadu anupaghatu pati mokkhe ca sangvaro Matang yuta ca bhattasmin pantang ca sayanasanang adhicitte ca ayogo etang buddhana sasanang sadhu sadhu sadhu.
Thank you, Bante Sunita, for beautifully reciting that Ovada Patimokkha Desana. It's so soothing and calming, and thank you so much. And once again, I would like to wish and give blessings to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, to all our venerable monks and nuns, and all our participants, for your long life, good health, happiness, peace of mind, and may all blessings be with you. I will see you all in 2 weeks' time. Okay, good night. Bye-bye.